Hi everyone, and welcome back to my kitchen. Today I want to show you guys how I make my easy and delicious mango cake, and you are going to love this light and fluffy cake, and the tropical mango flavor is just so delicious. I start things off with a simple sponge cake, and then I'm going to soak the sponge cake with a mango puree and frost the cake with a mango whipped cream frosting. Every single bite of this cake just melts in your mouth. It's so delicious and so fun to make. If you love mango flavors, make sure to check out my mango mousse cake. It's been a hit on my channel for many years. It's absolutely delicious. I'll leave a link down in the video description box below. Meanwhile, let's get started on this easy mango cake recipe. And I'm going to get things started with my easy sponge cake recipe. You guys have seen this recipe many times. I've used it across a ton of my cake recipes. Into my mixer bowl, I'm going to add in 8 large eggs. And the sponge cakes, they get all their volume from the eggs. So it's really important to whisk those eggs until they're very light and fluffy. I'm also going to add in 1.5 cups of white granulated sugar and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And I'm going to turn on my mixer and give this a whisk on high speed for about 9 to 10 minutes until my eggs are really light and fluffy and pale white in color. For my dry ingredients, I have 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, and to that I'm going to add in a teaspoon of baking powder. Going to mix these together, and then we're going to sift the flour into the cake batter. And the flour needs to be added into the eggs in small increments. So I usually split the flour into thirds, add a little bit at a time. Always sift it in, and then grab a spatula and gently but thoroughly fold the flour into the eggs. So what I like to do is actually scoop kind of from the bottom of the bowl to make sure that the flour gets incorporated. But it's really important to keep the eggs really light and fluffy, because if your eggs go flat, your cake is gonna go flat, and you might as well just throw it out the window. And I've lined 2 8-inch cake pans with parchment paper. You want to leave the sides ungreased. You don't want any grease in the pan. And I'm going to divide the cake batter evenly between the 2 pans. You can use a kitchen scale for this, or you could just estimate it. I like to use my spatula and kind of just scoop it right into the pan. And my sponge cake layers are ready to go into my preheated oven. I've set mine to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. They're going to bake for about 22 to 24 minutes. They'll have a rich golden brown color on the top, and when you tap them on the center on the top, they'll spring right back up. Take them out of the oven, let them cool in the pans, and then to take the cake layers out of the cake pans, grab a knife and run it along the edge of the cake pan, and then invert it onto a wire rack and let them cool completely. We'll come back to make our mango whipped cream frosting. For my filling, I'm going to use mango puree, but I'm also going to be using it in the whipped cream frosting. So I have peeled and chopped 3 medium-sized mangoes, and I'm going to drop them into my food processor. You could also do this in a blender. I'm going to close this with my lid and puree this for about a minute or 2 until that puree is really nice and smooth. And I'm going to add a squeeze of lemon juice in there to help preserve the color. All right, let's finish this off. I'm going to set aside 3/4 cups of the mango puree for my frosting, and the rest we're going to use as a filling for the cake. And now for my frosting. Today I'll be using a mango version of my berry whipped cream frosting. I have a separate video recipe for that. It's one of my favorite frostings. It's really light and fluffy, but it holds its shape really well, and it's so delicious. So for today's recipe, instead of using a berry sauce, I'll be using my mango puree. This recipe is super easy to make. If you guys want a more in-depth tutorial, make sure to check out that recipe. And now, I have 8 ounces of softened cream cheese in my mixing bowl here. Now you can either use a hand whisk or a hand mixer for this, but we need to cream that cream cheese so it's really light and creamy. Just gonna give it a whisk. You really wanna break it up so you don't have clumps of cream cheese. And in the microwave, I've melted 1 cup of white chocolate chips. I let them cool down for a few minutes. I'm going to add those into the cream cheese and give that a quick mix so it's well combined. Next, I'm going to add in the mango puree and mix that in as well. And you want to whisk this mixture until it's really nice and creamy and smooth, and then just set it aside for a minute while we make the whipped cream. Into a separate mixing bowl, into my stand mixer, I'm going to pour in 2 cups of chilled heavy cream. And to the heavy cream, I'm going to add in 1 cup of confectioner's sugar. And I'm going to mix the cream on medium speed first for about a minute, and then turn up the speed to high and whisk it for 3 to 4 minutes until stiff peaks form. My cream has reached stiff peak stage, and now I'm going to add in that mango white chocolate and cream cheese mixture. Just spoon it right in. And I really want this frosting to pop, so I'm actually going to add in a few drops of food coloring. This is completely optional. You don't have to add this if you don't want to. And now for the important step. So once you add in that mango mixture, you want to combine it together with the whipped cream, but do not overmix it. Like, whisk it for about 30 seconds just until it's combined. And now it's time to assemble the cake. My cake layers have cooled completely. I have my mango puree for filling the inside of the cake, and my mango whipped cream is all done. And this stuff is like ridiculously delicious. You could literally eat it by the spoonful. I think I actually might like this mango version better than my berry, and it's just so good. It's so creamy, so light and fluffy, and it holds its shape really well. It's gonna be perfect for frosting this cake. Now, before we start, I'm going to grab a long serrated knife and split these layers in half. And before I add my cream, I'm going to add my mango puree. And this is one of the reasons I love using a sponge cake for this cake, because it absorbs all of this goodness. It just takes it right in. It's the perfect recipe. And then for my top layer, I've actually spread the mango puree on the underside of it, and then I'm going to flip the cake over, just like that. And now I'm going to frost the top and sides of this cake. Just grab a little offset spatula, seal in all the crumbs with a little crumb coat layer first. And now time to garnish the top. I've transferred the rest of my frosting into a pastry bag. Today I'm using a Teco tip number 829, and I'm going to add dollops on top of the cake. And now let's cut open the cake to see what it looks like on the inside. You want to grab a sharp knife. And that's it, guys, for my easy and delicious mango cake. For the full recipe, head on down into that video description box. I've left a link that will take you over to my website so you could print this recipe off and share it with your family and friends. And now, time to dig in and enjoy. I just love how light and fluffy this cake is. It looks absolutely incredible. The mango flavor in this cake is absolutely phenomenal. If you love tropical or mango flavor, this is the cake for you. The sponge cake is just so light and delicate, and that mango whipped cream frosting is just something else. It is so, so good. I love the real mango flavor from the puree that we added in there. I had about half a cup left over. I'm going to keep it on the side and then add a little bit extra for each slice. It's the perfect addition. Guys, if you love mango, you have to try this cake. It is absolutely incredibly delicious. You guys are going to love it. Again, for the full recipe, head on down to that video description box. I hope you guys have enjoyed this recipe. I hope you enjoyed this recipe at home, and I'll see you next time with a new video.